Florida State legend Leonard Hamilton on the court has announced that he will be resigning after this season. And right now, the Florida State Seminoles, Michael Alford, Florida State's athletic director, are in the search for the successor of Leonard Hamilton. I'm with Austin Veazey, our lead basketball writer at NoleGameday.com. Also, someone that spent a lot of time with Coach Ham on the court as well. Austin, we talked about it on our show for quite a while. This wasn't going to be much of a shock. There was still maybe some question marks if he would continue and have another season with the Seminoles. But I think with how right now, how the team looks and some of these games not going in their favor, and now we'll discuss it, but the NIL, having to deal with all of that, deal with the families and everything, it's just a whole different world in the world of college athletics. And here we are. Leonard Hamilton will no longer be FSU's men's basketball coach moving forward after this season.
Yeah, it's been a time coming. Like, I was told about this before the season, that this was a possibility, that this is likely going to be Hamilton's last season. It was the last year of his contract. Things just seem to line up. He's 76 years old, and we've seen a lot of older coaches start to phase out of college basketball the last few years. But, even sitting here today and about an hour ago, which granted this isn't live, maybe an hour and a half ago, so about 2:30 Eastern on Monday afternoon, someone texted me like, "Hey, need to watch out for something." I'm like, "Oh, I know what that means." And it's still it's an emotional day. You mentioned it. I spent 3 years with the program, 3 really good years. We made the tournament every year, made an Elite Eight, made an ACC championship game. And, you can see behind me, I've got jerseys from a few former players from my time there. I'm so grateful for my time there and everything that Coach Hamilton has done for me specifically, not just the program. But yeah, this had to come. The team hasn't been very good for the last few years. They have a losing record dating back to their last NCAA tournament appearance in 2021, which was a Sweet 16 appearance with Scotty Barnes. But the team just hasn't been amazing the last couple of years. And as we record this today, they're in the middle of a 4-game losing streak. This last game against Boston College was inexplicably bad, where they were up 15 in the second half, up 7 with, I think it was 44 seconds to go, and lost in regulation to a team that had just won one conference game prior to that game. It's just an inexcusable loss. And it makes sense that the timing of this is coming out now. I'm super grateful that they're allowing him to finish out the season. He's one of the legendary figures, not just in college basketball, but college athletics. The barriers he broke as a coach coming up through Kentucky was, huge for the time. And he's paved so much groundwork for so many different coaches. And you ask any coach in the ACC, they're going to tell you this is a guy that is a Hall of Famer, one of the genuine great people in this business, and the sport will never be the same without him.
Mm-hmm. I'll be honest with you, Leonard Hamilton carried a lot of the FSU fan base as a whole when Florida State football was going on its downward turn for a while, and going and watching Florida State basketball games, being in attendance for those, were some of my most fun times as a student, and just living in Tallahassee for a majority of my life there, 25 years. But Leonard Hamilton, just as a coach, a player, or not a player, but to me, he was a coach that built a lot of good relationships with the players. I mean, like you just said there, you have those jerseys in the back, but some of those things that he did behind the scenes and getting these guys right, you saw a lot of leadership be built within those rosters that he put together. It was really impressive. And also too, just building some guys up, a lot of them being project players. You got to think back at some of these centers that they'd bring in from across the globe, and he'd work on and project them and do some good work in development. There's a lot of things that Leonard Hamilton has earned a lot of respect from across the collegiate side of things, and all the way goes up into the pros as well, because now you look at these guys that are stars in the NBA as well. Leonard Hamilton put out a statement with this release saying, "I am deeply thankful for the tremendous support of our fans, alumni, and everyone associated with Florida State throughout my time here. I am proud of the quality of young men that it was my privilege to lead, for their faith in the program and their belief in the philosophy that we tried to instill in them over the years. My family and I truly love this place, the institution, and its people. I'm very fortunate to be able to have given this job with none of my regrets. No regrets. Every head coach inherits a legacy and is obligated to leave the job better than they inherited it. I'm very proud of what we were able to accomplish here over the last 23 seasons. I look forward to working with our administration during this transition and being as helpful as possible through this process. VZ, can you kind of take us through, what Leonard Hamilton is behind the scenes, since you got to spend so much time with him through practices, of course, games, traveling to games, going on runs like y'all did, and also to how it showed in the locker room with those players?
Yeah, what people really don't know is he is one of the funniest people you could ever meet. I mean, you just see him on the sideline, stern face, never reacts to anything, but he has some stories that I will never be allowed to repeat, just from trips that we've been on. But he's just done such a tremendous job of supporting his players even after they leave the program. I mean, he is so proud of the team's graduation rate going back to the start of his tenure. It's over 95% of players have graduated, one of the best marks, for a college head coach. But, players really look up to him and the pathways that he created, as he was really a trailblazer for African-American coaches. And that means a lot to a lot of these younger players, to see someone that was so influential in college basketball, still thinks the game at a high level. And yeah, it's okay that NIL and the transfer portal have completely changed the way that he prefers to operate his basketball team. He's been doing this for longer than a lot of us will be alive. He's one of the prominent figures in college basketball. Everybody respected him. It wasn't just Florida State players that, even as soon as he walks in the locker room, yeah, you could kind of feel his presence. But even if, when you're walking through, Staples Center, when we were out there and for the NCAA tournament, just other people walking past him going, wow, that's actually Leonard Hamilton. Like, people just really respect who he is as a figure.
I want to go to some of this when I was bringing up player development. Here, developed 19 NBA draft selections, including 9 first-round picks. He coached number 4 overall picks, Patrick Williams, as we know, Scotty Barnes, like you had just mentioned, which Dustin completely messed up that projection of Scotty Barnes not being a force to be reckoned with in the NBA. Scotty having a damn good start to his NBA career. But Leonard Hamilton also produced 24 All-AC selections and 13 ACC All-Defensive Team selections. He was just an absolute mastermind in what he was able to do defensively throughout his time in Tallahassee. Also coached 4 ACC Sixth Man of the Year winners and also 2 ACC Defensive Players of the Year. He was a mastermind of getting that sixth man off the court, and sometimes that being one of the most pivotal players on the court for the Seminoles on winning those games, VZ.
Yeah, I mean, Scotty Barnes has developed into an all-star caliber player in the NBA, and he's just a few years into his career. Jonathan Isaac's one of the best defensive players in the NBA. Terrence Mann has had a long career for a second-round pick. We've seen a bunch of first-round guys. Malik Beasley has carved out a great path in the NBA. Seeing what the program became over the late 2010s was tremendous. And we're all going to go look back on that 2020 COVID, cancellation of the tournament as the true changing point of the program. Even, you go into that next season, yes, they make the NCAA tournament, make a Sweet 16, but Scotty Barnes didn't get any time to prepare for being a point guard. He literally just showed up on campus and was playing. That's pretty much how it was because of COVID. And a lot of people in that program believe if they had that whole offseason to prepare him for that season, they could have made a Final Four run, just like they could have made it the year before with Trent Forrest and Patrick Williams and Devin Vassell and all those guys. And if you go back and look at the metrics that backs it up, that 2020-21 team, it's probably going to be one of the forgotten about teams in Florida State's history. But just, you mentioned it, the player development we've seen, even guys like Jonathan Isaac and Dwayne Bacon were 5-stars, but there's also, for every story like that, there's a story like Fiondu Kabengele, who was a 3-star. Florida State was his only big offer. It was that, Binghamton, and somewhere else. He comes in, and in 3 years, he's in the NBA. Solomon Alabi, same thing. Unheralded guy, ended up being drafted into the NBA. There are so many stories like that. And it just speaks to the guys he's been able to develop. Even if you go back to his days at Miami, developing guys like John Salmons, he's just done such a tremendous job of this throughout his entire career.
What was Devin Vassell back in.
He was also
high
a
school.
very unheralded 3-star guy. I believe
Yeah.
his only other offers were like Georgia State. I want to say UNF. Like it was programs on that level in the South.
Yep,
And he went to the NBA after 2 years.
Yep, I'm looking here at his high school and trying to figure out. Yeah, he was a 3-star, nationally ranked 164th player in his class. But yeah, just finding some guys and developing. I feel like something that Leonard Hamilton was able to do. And yes, some of these players, though, I always think of his centers, man. Like when I think of Leonard Hamilton, I think the centers and the project players that he would bring literally across the globe into the tuck and be able to develop into being a decently good center there for them and could last a couple years as well. Going over to some more, just going through his coaching career, 3-time National Coach of the Year, 5-time ACC Coach of the Year. He's actually the only coach to win multiple Coach of the Year honors in both the ACC and back in the Big East. 37-year head coaching career between Oklahoma State, Miami, and FSU, and he's led teams to 22 postseason bids, including 5 Sweet 16 appearances. Going over to Michael Alford and what he had to say about the future of Florida State basketball, but also too giving some remarks on Leonard Hamilton and his career, saying Coach Hamilton's personal character and integrity and his leadership set a tremendous standard for all of FSU athletics. Few people have seen or been as important in building the positive reputation of Seminole athletics. FSU's stature as one of the leading brands in college sports has been possible in part to his leadership of our men's basketball program. The success of the men who have been part of our basketball program is the proof of that legacy. He said, I'm excited for the future of men's basketball at Florida State. Thanks to Coach Hamilton's excellent stewardship and leadership, it has been proven that Florida State can be a contender in the ACC and nationally. I'm looking forward to building on what he has accomplished here as we identify the next leader of our program. And they've got a lot of work to do here for Florida State to turn some things around, like you were just mentioning. It's been a pretty brutal season after seeing some shots, showing some signs that they can fight with some teams and might battle a little bit there in the ACC, but the last couple of games have not gone in their favor, and then some games that you feel like you could have won with, definitely with some of these talents that you're starting to see that there is talent on the squad, but now Florida State's got to look ahead and into the future and, figure out who is going to be the successor of Leonard Hamilton.
There's going to be a lot of names. The first name that'll pop up, we don't want to get too in depth. Maybe we make another video for that. We'll leave that up to you.
Yeah, we'll wait on,
the first name, and maybe the name, is going to be Luke Laux, former Florida State point guard for that first ACC championship team in 2012. He's currently an assistant coach for the Sacramento Kings. Has spent time as a player development coach for the Warriors when they went on their run with Steph Curry, Kevin Durant, those guys. Played an influential part in developing Chris Boucher, who's a solid player for the Toronto Raptors. But he's just 34 years old, turning 35 in April. And what I have been told is that Florida State is looking for a young coach that can develop with the program while leading them to new heights, but they also want to keep this guy around. They don't want him to be so good that he's going to leave for UNC or Duke or whoever in 5 years. They want someone that it's going to be really hard for them to say no to Florida State. Laux could be that guy. I've been told that Laux had some interest before the season. There's even some talk about him potentially joining on as an assistant coach, but then the Sacramento Kings barred communication unless Florida State was willing to say, hey, he's your head coach in waiting, then fine. But Florida State wasn't willing to do that at the time. So we'll see how this develops over the next couple months.
We will keep a close eye on it on our show on Hear the Spear. So make sure you guys are subscribed for that. We go live once a week covering FSU football, recruiting. Same thing goes for basketball on the same side. We'll have a lot of basketball, though, to talk about moving forward after having these many years of Leonard Hamilton. It's going to look a lot different going into this next season for Florida State basketball. Just going through some more numbers. He holds a 196 to 186 record in ACC regular season games. He led FSU to 16 postseason appearances and 20 win seasons, and compiled an overall record of 434 to 290 at FSU. So an incredible ride in Tallahassee. Do you have any more comments that you would like to share here, VZ, before we probably put out a lot more basketball content throughout this offseason? There will be a lot more basketball content. So I know we have a good amount of basketball listeners and viewers on the YouTube channel.
Yeah, I know I've already said it once, but I cannot thank Coach Hamilton enough for my 3 seasons there, and even how he's treated me as media for the last 5 years. Now, no one in that program is a big fan of media, but I think it's been a little more helpful to have someone that was in the program for 3 years, and it's a little bit more of a friendly face. And yeah, they still give me some jabs here and there, but I know it's all in good fun. And it really has been the biggest honor to cover such a legend in the sport.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Like I was saying too, some of my favorite memories are being in the Tuck and seeing some of those incredible games. And I remember going and taking my dad to one of them for one of his birthday presents, and got to go see them. They actually upset Duke at home in the Tuck. Got some really good seats down near the court and everything, and that was a really fun experience. And got to see Zion play, and it was just some cool experiences that Leonard Hamilton was able to put together for the squad and the program. And just going through the time of covering him and just hearing the stories from Austin and understanding Leonard and how he works behind the scenes and his leadership. And you would see it, though, translate onto the court. It's something that I think everybody on the football side wish they, could have. And, Mike Norvell came in and has pretty much done that so far, and they got some things to fix moving forward. But Leonard Hamilton just was always producing these kind of leaders that, Terrence Mann, Trent Forrest, Phil Kofer, like a lot of these guys that he would love to have in your building. And there was some awesome memories there, and really wishing Leonard Hamilton the best, and hopefully they can fight and try to get some wins and finish off the season strong for Hamilton. What is that season-ending game look like?
The last game is home against SMU on March 8th. Then the ACC tournament's in Charlotte that following week.
Okay, gotcha. So I would imagine for that SMU game, it will be pretty packed in there.
And it's a little bit of a homecoming because SMU's head coach is Andy Enfield, who's a former Florida State assistant. So I think this had been in the works. And as soon as I saw the schedule, I'm like, SMU's a weird last game, but Enfield's there. So this makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. So that will do it for this video. If you enjoyed it, make sure you hit that like button down below. We would deeply appreciate that. And make sure you hit subscribe too, and hit that bell, because you'll get notified every time we release a new video like this. But until next time, we'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.